We all stumble along the way, don't we? Especially when it comes to our finances. Skipping your debt repayments has consequences. And do you know enough about what the law says when it comes to your credit agreement? Now, in this second episode, we continue with our credit and debt collections conversation, arming you with insightful information that can help you as a consumer. Welcome to the Old Mutual Financial Literacy Podcast series. I'm your host, Muteo Horipe. On this podcast series, we will get experts to answer some of your burning questions when it comes to managing your finances. It's an easy money conversation that's meant to assist you to have your money in control, from debt, financial literacy, budgeting, saving, and financial cover. In this episode, we're joined by Robin Reichman, Old Mutual Finance Head of Recoveries and Debt Review, as well as Senzo Lubisi, the Head of Collections and ECM Strategy at Old Mutual Finance. Gentlemen, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Mateo. Thank you for having us.
Well, let's talk about money. Starting with you, Robin, joining us here on this second episode, just around your role at Old Mutual and how different is it from Senzo's work at the financial services firm?
Once again, thanks for the warm welcome, Mateo. So my role within Old Mutual Finance is to oversee and optimize all the late-stage recovery operational areas. This includes pre-legal call center, external debt collector and attorney outsourcing for collections and litigation, debt sales, debt review portfolio, and all the other legal processes like administration and sequestration.
So you're the one no one needs to mess with then when they've taken out a loan. But we'll get into the deeper senses of what you do there. I want to start by recapping, Senzo, firstly on the conversation we had in the first episode around applying for credit, the benefits of keeping good repayment habits, and what to do when you fall on hard times. Just give us a bit of a recap of what consumers can do to make sure their finances are in order.
Yeah, thanks, Mateo. Yeah, and just to recap, taking it from the top, it is absolutely vital that customers have a clear objective and understanding regarding why they need credit. So a bit of research must actually take place for customers to understand, their financial circumstances, the reason regarding why they require credit, and then be able to make an informed decision. They must also check their past payment behavior, which may have led to perhaps in the past debt review, sequestration, judgments, etc., because that is a prerequisite for a credit application. Most importantly as well, customers must be absolutely honest about their net disposable income, which is the net salary, less deductions, i.e. credit installments, less expenses, which could entail groceries, transport, school fees, etc., which determines the ability to repay an installment when the loan is granted. In short, affordability. And some of the benefits of keeping a good repayment habit will include building and maintaining a healthy credit score and history, because it's important that the quality of your credit can have a far-reaching effect in many aspects of your daily life. In addition to lenders and credit card companies, checking your credit insurance and landlords, utility providers, or even potential employers may check your credit in order to offer employment, particularly in the financial services industry. Therefore, keeping a good repayment habit is also vital for future credit application. And then what to do when you fall in hard times. Communication is critical so that we can work together and work out the best solution for you. Therefore, we invite customers to proactively reach out to us to determine their financial circumstances, what they can be able to afford, and subsequently work out a payment plan that is best suited, of course, depending on eligibility.
Senzo, thank you very much for that sound recap around credit applications, but things won't always go right, right? So I think we need to speak to Robin now. And if using an analogy, Robin, I almost see you as the principal's office. If you don't do well, if you're doing all the wrong things, you're going to be sent to the principal's office and they'll have to deal with you. Am I right in saying that, firstly? And secondly, just getting to the debt review conversation. What is debt review? And can I pay the debt review installment if or when I want to?
So that's one way of looking at it, Matteo. I think there's so many solutions out there for consumers, and it's our obligation to make them aware of that. So debt review is one of those, and it's a legal process which is governed by the National Credit Act. It's available to customers who qualify on the basis that they're over indebted and no longer able to service their credit on the original terms that they agreed to. And really the purpose of debt review is for debt counselors to manage the outstanding debt with creditors on their behalf. This is mainly achieved by your debt counselor entering into agreed restructured terms with your creditors on your behalf, like I said, with set commitments as to when you will pay and how much you will pay monthly. The thing is, if you fail to make payment in terms of the new terms under the debt review process, which you've agreed to, you do run the risk of creditors terminating your debt review application, which then puts you at risk. So it's not really a voluntary option. However, it is understood that when you are under debt review, that doesn't mean that your financial challenges stop. So if that does occur under the process, it really is best to communicate openly and clearly with your debt counselor in that regard. We will then engage with your creditors to possibly make some sort of short-term adjustments to your repayments.
And debt review seems to be quite a stigma, especially around a lot of consumers. People won't readily tell you that I've taken up debt review, but it is an option that is legally there for South African consumers to look at if they're really, really under the cosh.
It is, definitely. And it's one of those options that is available. We always encourage customers to reach out to their creditors first to see what options are available, but most definitely, if that's the best one, then get the necessary information on it to make an informed decision.
Senzo, let's come back to you then. Once going through processes like debt review, one can feel like the repayment is taking eons, it's taking too long, it's really dragging. But how long will it take until I'm debt-free in this particular situation?
Yeah, thanks, Matteo. So getting to a point of being debt-free is solely dependent on how customers will prioritize the payment in terms of the original agreement which were signed. It's always best to keep to these terms and where possible pay surplus funds towards an account in order to reduce interest charges and repay the debt sooner. And then if customers encounter financial challenges, how soon they can reach out to credit providers, like Robin just alluded. And then it depends on how quickly, they're able to tackle the problem that's facing them. So the engagements remain key, where customers would raise their hand openly and timeously, so that they get a best chance in getting a solution that is favorable.
I think it goes back to what you had said earlier, Senzo, around the responsibility we have as consumers to also make sure that our affairs are in order. We can't just leave it to the creditor to keep chasing us for the repayments. Robin, I want us to bring the conversation now to real life scenarios, right? If I have more than one loan and I feel am I able to consolidate all the loans that I have into one and have one big repayment that I deal with instead of various ones on my account?
Yeah, good question, Matteo. It's quite possible. However, for existing loans to be consolidated to pay a single installment, customers do need to go through a loan application process for consolidation. And if customers have multiple loans which they fear that they might default on, or which are already in arrears, then it would be best to contact Old Mutual to discuss the options available given their circumstances. Just maybe to speak about some of the benefits of consolidation. You're looking at paying a single service fee and credit protection plan. You also get a single fixed monthly payment, and often that monthly payment is lower on your qualifying credit consolidating your credit can also free up some cash for you, depending on the deal that gets done. And I'd just like to say our experienced credit consolidation teams at Old Mutual Finance are quite capable of handling all the admin of settling your credit commitments for you.
Robin, then while as a consumer I consider a debt review, can I acquire further credit while I'm under that process?
Mateo, that's a question that often gets asked. The answer to that is no. The reasons being is that it could be deemed reckless credit granting if that happens. And being under debt review means that you are not able to pay your current debt on the terms which you initially agreed with your creditors. So debt review, like I said before, is intended to assist you manage your finances so that you're able to service your debt obligations whilst ensuring that you have enough money for necessary living expenses. If you do exit debt review successfully, then you will be able to enter the credit market again and apply accordingly.
Since we've heard from Robin saying debt consolidation can be an option for consumers, but what can one consider before taking that step?
Yeah, thanks, Mateo. So indeed, debt consolidation is one of the relief options that is made available to customers. But I would advise that depending on customers' financial circumstances, or a lot of what led to those financial circumstances are based on unexpected life events. So it would be crucial for customers to gauge whether the difficulties they're facing are temporary or long-term, because we've got various relief options, i.e., if it's a temporary measure, then we can look into short-term arrangements that could last between 3 and 6 months, of longer-term arrangements, basically, versus the consolidation that could take much longer.
Senzo and Robin, I'd like to bring you into this particular question. When I was younger and more irresponsible, I got a clothing account and I started not paying it back because I had lost my part-time job. And I thought, look, if I avoid it, nothing will happen. I didn't understand how these things work until I got a call saying that I've been handed over to external attorneys. What does that mean? Being handed over in terms of your loan, your repayment, being handed over to an external attorney. What are we talking about there?
So if it gets to a point where we have been unsuccessful in contacting a customer to discuss the various relief options, then we have available, and there's a history of consistent non-performance on a loan, then we might need to consider using an external debt collector or attorney to assist with the recovery of the outstanding funds. If this occurs, it will mean that customers would need to make arrangements for repayment directly with them in order to service your loan. However, it's important to note the external attorneys would operate within the service level agreements of Old Mutual Finance. So they would interact with customers in a manner that's within our values. So that's critical to note. Robin, is there anything you'd like to add?
Coming into that particular question?
Yeah, I mean, it happens. And unfortunately, once a loan has been handed over to an external debt collector or attorney, depending on the process that it's in, customers must also understand that they are going to be liable to pay collection costs or fees on top of the outstanding debt, which results in taking longer for the loan to be paid off. These are normally built into the terms and conditions of the agreement that you sign up front, and that's why we encourage all customers to really reach out to Old Mutual Finance as soon as they experience financial difficulty, so that we can assist with a suitable solution for repayment before it gets to that point, because our intention is to get you to a point of being paid up.
Robin, I think the main mistake we make as consumers is try curl away in a corner and avoid the credit provider even when they're trying to contact us. Firstly, because we're ashamed, we're not paying back what we promised to do, but also there is still that stigma of having you're being flagged as a bad payer, if you will. Can you remove the debt review flag from your name?
It's so true. And that listing will be on a consumer's profile on the credit bureau for as long as they're under debt review. And they can't exit or withdraw the process unless they receive a clearance certificate from their debt counselor or they have a court order releasing them from debt counseling. Once this occurs, and that generally happens when all your debt is repaid, then the debt counselor will proceed to remove that listing from the bureau, and that obligation doesn't sit with Old Mutual or any of your creditors. And it's for these reasons that we really caution customers to consider debt counseling carefully before applying to do so, and only if they're not able to make suitable arrangements with their creditors. And if customers are seeking to apply for debt review, really go out there and look for all the necessary information to be able to make an informed decision. And they're more than welcome to visit Old Mutual Finances, where they can get some critical information around the debt review process to really empower their financial journey.
So the financial advice is not only when you're making money, but it's also when you are in financial trouble that you should be making that call. Senzo, people look at this particular process, whether in any form, whether it's debt review or they've skipped a couple of payments, as something that doesn't work. They should be ashamed of it. They should have had the money, but life happens. So how important is it for them to approach a credit provider to say, hold my hand, I've stumbled a bit, get me through this process so my finances are back in order?
Yeah, thanks, Mateo. It is absolutely crucial, and those processes I explained at the point of application and when we disperse the loan to customers that we need to maintain the relationship. We need to take them in a journey, and when they hit financial difficulties, they must come back for us to be able to assist based on their circumstances. We're talking about real people with real problems, so we should be able to chip in and assist as much as possible. And over the years, we've had customers that have come through proactively reaching out to us, or various campaigns that we also run to reach out to customers. But then it all relies on customers responding, saying, yes, indeed, I'm in financial difficulties, I need help. And then we're able to enroll them into the relief programs. When you look at short-term financial relief programs, would include relief such as maternity as well, where it's a temporary situation where customers are faced with reduced income over a course of 3 to 6 months, and then we're able to take that installment to 30% of the original installment until that period is over. And then subsequently, when customers are earning their normal income, then they reset to the original installment. And they really appreciate that, because it is a burden with additional expenses and then other forms. So we really do encourage customers to speak out, talk to us, because there'll always be an opportunity to assist.
And Robin, after this entire process of somebody being walked through again to get their finances in order and repay right up until the end, is there an option of getting a paid up letter, an official letterhead from the credit provider to say, you're now done with the process, you've repaid us all the money you promised, and whoever asks for your profile, you can also produce this letter?
100%. We're all looking at the end game, and the sole objective from consumer and the creditor is to make sure that we get you to that point. So if you get through that process and we can clear the debt, then 100%. Old Mutual Finance definitely provides paid up letters to confirm that your account has been settled in full, provided that has happened. And that is the reward at the end of the day that a customer can walk away with, saying that they've got the assistance that they needed and they successfully exited the process.
And who doesn't like a great report card, right? Then, Robin, let's look at, how one can pay their loan after it has been prescribed. And of course, that's a financial jargon. So I'd need you to at least explain to those listening, what is a prescribed loan firstly, and can I pay my loan after it has been prescribed?
Thanks for that loaded question. So I think a couple of things there. Let's start with what prescription means. So in general, prescribed debt refers to debt that is no longer collectible or legally enforceable by your creditor. And how debt does or doesn't prescribe is really dependent on the type of credit. And debt usually prescribes if you have not made payment within a 3-year period, or you haven't acknowledged that you owe the debt, or that you haven't entered into a promise to pay with your creditor. So one thing to look out for and be very aware, because we might sit there and think, okay, a long period of time has passed by and therefore I don't owe this debt anymore. But creditors might have taken valid legal steps to interrupt prescription because of your failure to make payment, and therefore debt that customers might think has prescribed has not. Allowing your debt to get to this point after such a long period of time might mean that you run up additional costs in terms of interest, fees, collection costs, and especially legal fees, which isn't ideal in your journey to becoming debt-free, not to mention the negative effects on your credit score from a repayment history. So to answer the question about whether you can pay your loan after it has officially prescribed, sadly not. It's unlawful for any creditor to collect money on such debt. And this is why we encourage all customers to talk to Old Mutual as soon as they experience financial difficulties, so that we can assist in getting you a suitable solution for repayment and prevent these kind of things from happening.
Robin, what should we remember? We've had a keen conversation and you've given us some highlights of what we need to look at when either our loan is handed over and all the options that we have. Just give us those key points again.
Thanks, Matteo. For allowing us to address burning issues which are applicable to all of us. But I think if we had to recap on some of the items, there's a lot of solutions and processes within the collections process, such as the ones that we mentioned around debt review, your account ending up being handed over to an external attorney for either collection or litigation, debt prescribing, and all of these things can happen and do happen. But what we do want to reassure our customers is that we have the skilled teams to address any questions that you might have throughout the process within the various teams, which is quite a unique thing to have as an organization. So we really encourage customers to reach out at all points of the process whenever they're experiencing financial difficulty, to get some sort of insight and information that can guide them through their journey and get them to that point where you said we have that paid up letter and we can all exit the party as being happy.
And Senzo, from you, things to remember, things to keep in mind?
Yeah, thanks, Matteo. Yeah, just to recap, I think along the lines of how long will it take customers until they're debt-free, and we did make mention that that's really dependent on how they can prioritize repayments and sticking to the original agreement. It's always best to keep to these terms, and where possible, like pay surplus funds. It goes a long way in assisting to reduce interest charges. And when they fall into financial difficulties, how quickly they can reach out to the credit providers openly and timeously in order to get the best chance of being assisted. So really, it's about keeping the engagement happening, and then credit providers will always be available to take them on a journey to rehabilitate into financial freedom.
Another great conversation here on the Old Mutual Financial Literacy podcast series. In our next episode, we'll look at how all of this affects your credit report.